Archangel Michael says, stop. This is going to happen. Open your heart and listen now. Do not scroll past this message. Do not close this video. Something inside you already knows this moment matters, and that is exactly why you are here, right now, reading these words. You were not meant to keep living on autopilot. You were not meant to keep ignoring the quiet nudges that have been trying to reach you for weeks, maybe months. Today, that ends. Today, the message finally gets through. Take a slow breath. Let your body relax, even just a little. Whatever you were carrying before this moment, set it down for the next few minutes. This message is only for you, and it has been waiting for the right time to reach you. That time is now. Something is shifting in your life, whether you can fully see it yet or not. You have felt it in small ways. A change in your energy. A change in how certain people feel around you. A change in what excites you and what no longer does. These are not random feelings. They are signs that a new chapter is approaching, and it is asking you to prepare. Here is the warning. If you keep ignoring these signs, keep pretending everything is fine when it is not, keep numbing yourself with distraction instead of listening, the new chapter will still arrive, but you will arrive at it exhausted, unprepared, and disconnected from yourself. You do not want that. You deserve to walk into what is coming with clarity, not confusion. So listen closely now, because this message carries several truths you need to hear. The first truth is this. You have been carrying too much for too long, and you have told almost no one. From the outside, you look like you are managing. You show up, you smile, you handle your responsibilities. But underneath that surface, there is a tiredness that sleep does not fix, a heaviness that no amount of rest seems to lift completely. This heaviness is not a punishment. It is not proof that something is wrong with you. It is simply proof that you have been strong for a long time without enough support, without enough rest, without enough honesty about how difficult things have actually been. You are allowed to stop pretending you are fine when you are not. You are allowed to say, "Today has been hard," without immediately following it with an apology or a joke to soften it. Your struggle does not need to be minimized to be valid. It is valid exactly as it is. The second truth is this. You have been waiting for permission that was never going to come from outside yourself. Permission to rest. Permission to change direction. Permission to want more than what you currently have. Permission to walk away from something that no longer fits who you are becoming. That permission does not exist out there, waiting to be granted by someone else. It exists inside you, and it has existed there the whole time. The only thing missing was your decision to finally claim it. Stop waiting for someone else to tell you that it is okay to change your life. It is okay. It was always okay. You simply needed to hear it clearly, one more time, from a message that finally reached you at the right moment. The third truth is this. Fear has been running your decisions more than you realize. Not loud, dramatic fear, but quiet fear, the kind that whispers, "Do not risk it, stay where it is safe, do not disappoint anyone, do not ask for too much." This quiet fear has kept you small in ways you have not fully noticed, because it does not look like obvious fear. It looks like practicality. It looks like being realistic. It looks like putting everyone else first because that feels like the responsible thing to do. But underneath all of that reasonable-sounding logic is simply fear, wearing a convincing disguise. And it has been costing you more than you realize, quietly, year after year. It is time to gently question that fear instead of automatically obeying it. Not recklessly, not without thought, but honestly. Ask yourself, is this choice coming from wisdom, or is it coming from fear pretending to be wisdom? The answer will not always be obvious immediately, but the question itself is powerful enough to start shifting things. The fourth truth is this. Some relationships in your life have quietly become heavier than they are worth. Not every one of them. Not most of them, perhaps. But somewhere in your life, there is a relationship that drains you more than it fills you, that requires you to shrink yourself to keep the peace, that leaves you feeling smaller after every interaction instead of more like yourself. You already know which relationship this message is pointing toward. You felt it the moment you read these words. That feeling is not an accident. It is your own inner wisdom, finally being acknowledged instead of pushed aside. You do not need to end this relationship today, dramatically, in anger. You simply need to start being honest with yourself about its true cost. Awareness is the first step. What you do with that awareness can unfold gently, in your own time. The fifth truth is this. You have been holding on to guilt that was never yours to carry in the first place. Guilt for outcomes you did not fully control. Guilt for choices that were actually reasonable given what you knew at the time. Guilt for simply wanting things for yourself, as if wanting is somehow selfish. This guilt has quietly shaped decisions you have made, keeping you from things you actually wanted because some part of you believed you did not deserve them, or that wanting them made you a bad person somehow. It is time to set this guilt down. Not because your past choices were perfect, no one's are, but because carrying guilt long after a lesson has already been learned does not protect anyone. It only exhausts you, for no productive reason. Forgive yourself for the version of you that did not know what you know now. That version of you was doing their best with the tools they had at the time. You would extend this same understanding to a friend in a heartbeat. Extend it to yourself today. The sixth truth is this. You are stronger than the voice inside your head that keeps insisting you are not ready. That voice has been wrong before, many times, about many things. It told you that you could not handle other difficult moments in your life, moments that you actually did handle, even if imperfectly, even if it was hard. Readiness is often a myth people wait for before taking action, when in reality, most people become ready by starting, not before starting. You will not feel fully prepared before your next big step, and that is completely normal. Almost no one does. They simply take the step anyway, and figure out the rest along the way. You do not need to feel ready. You only need to be willing to begin. The seventh truth is this. Your body has been trying to tell you something important, and you have been too busy to properly listen. The tension in your shoulders. The tightness in your chest during certain conversations. The exhaustion that shows up right before you have to face something you have been avoiding. Your body speaks a language older and often more honest than your thoughts. When your mind convinces itself that everything is fine, your body often already knows the truth. Learning to listen to these physical signals, instead of overriding them constantly, can guide you toward decisions your logical mind alone might miss. The next time your body reacts strongly to a situation, pause. Ask what it might be trying to tell you, instead of immediately pushing the feeling aside to keep functioning. The eighth truth is this. You have been comparing your current chapter to other people's highlight reels, and it has quietly convinced you that you are behind, when you are not. Behind what, exactly? Whose timeline? Whose definition of success? Whose version of a life well lived? There is no universal schedule that everyone is required to follow. There is only your own path, unfolding at its own pace, shaped by your own experiences, your own healing, your own unique circumstances. Comparing your entire complicated journey to someone else's carefully edited public image will never give you an accurate picture, and it will never bring you peace. Release the comparison. Focus instead on your own next honest step, whatever that may be for you today. The ninth truth is this. Change rarely arrives all at once, in one dramatic moment. It usually arrives quietly, through a series of small decisions, repeated consistently, over time. One honest conversation. One small boundary. One moment of rest chosen over another moment of pushing through exhaustion. One decision to try again after a setback instead of giving up completely. None of these individual moments look dramatic from the outside. But together, over weeks and months, they quietly build into an entirely different life than the one you were living before. Do not underestimate the power of these small, consistent choices. They are doing more than they appear to be doing in any single moment. The 10th truth is this. You are allowed to want more, without feeling guilty about wanting it. More peace. More honesty in your relationships. More alignment between the life you are living and the life you actually want to be living. Wanting more does not mean you are ungrateful for what you already have. It simply means you are human, and growth is part of being human. Gratitude and desire for growth can exist together, at the same time, without contradiction. You can appreciate where you are while still moving toward where you want to be. This is not greed. This is simply life, unfolding the way it was meant to. Now that these 10 truths have been spoken, here is the warning at the center of this message. If you continue avoiding what you already know, deep down, needs to change, the discomfort you feel today will not disappear on its own. It will simply grow quieter for a while, before returning louder, later, when it becomes harder to ignore. It is far kinder to yourself to listen now, while the message is still gentle, rather than waiting until circumstances force the same lesson upon you in a harsher way. This is not a threat meant to frighten you. It is simply an honest observation about how avoidance tends to work, in almost everyone's life, if left unaddressed for too long. You have a choice today. Not a choice to fix everything immediately, no one expects that of you. Simply a choice to finally start listening to what you already know, instead of continuing to push it aside for one more day, one more week, one more year. Consider, for a moment, what it might feel like to finally stop fighting yourself. To stop pretending you do not already know what needs to change. To stop postponing the honest conversation, the necessary rest, the difficult but important decision. Imagine the relief of finally aligning your outer life with the truth you have been carrying quietly inside. That relief is available to you. It has always been available. The only thing standing between you and it is the decision to finally begin, even imperfectly, even without having every detail figured out in advance. Think about how much energy you have spent resisting change, compared to how much energy actual change, once begun, tends to require. Resistance is often more exhausting than the change itself, because resistance keeps you stuck in the same place, using effort simply to stay still, instead of using that same effort to actually move forward. Redirect that energy today. Not toward resisting what you already know, but toward taking one small, honest step in the direction your own heart has been quietly pointing toward for some time now. You do not need a perfect plan before you begin. You simply need one true step, taken with as much courage as you can gather in this moment. The next step will reveal itself once you take the first one. It almost always does. Remember, too, that you are not walking this path completely alone, even if it sometimes feels that way. There are people who will understand your growth, even if they are not the same people who understood the older version of you. There are new relationships waiting to form, new communities waiting to welcome the more honest version of yourself that is emerging. You simply have not met them yet, because the old, smaller version of you was standing in the way. As you step more fully into honesty, into courage, into the life you actually want, some relationships may fall away naturally, while others deepen in ways you did not expect. Both outcomes are part of the same process. Trust it, even when it feels uncertain. There is a reason this particular message reached you today, at this particular moment. Perhaps you have been asking, quietly, for a sign that it is time to change. Perhaps you have been hoping for permission, for reassurance, for confirmation that you are not imagining the restlessness inside you. Consider this message that confirmation, arriving exactly when you needed it. You are not imagining it. Something inside you truly is ready for something different. The question now is simply whether you will honor that readiness, or continue postponing it for reasons that, if you are honest with yourself, no longer serve you. Choose to honor it. Not perfectly, not all at once, but honestly, starting today. Before this message ends, take one final moment for yourself. Place a hand gently on your chest if it feels comfortable to do so. Take one slow breath in, and one slow breath out. Silently acknowledge, to yourself, one truth you have been avoiding. You do not need to say it out loud. You simply need to acknowledge it, quietly, honestly, to yourself. That quiet acknowledgement is the beginning. Everything else will follow from there, one honest step at a time, in your own time, at your own pace. This message found you today for a reason. Trust that. Carry it with you. And when you are ready, not before, not because anyone else told you to, but when you are truly ready, take your next step. Deep down, you already know what that step is. Thank you for receiving this message today. Be gentle with yourself as you begin. There is more you need to hear before this message is complete, because the truths already spoken are only the beginning of what your spirit has been waiting to receive. Think about how often you have talked yourself out of trusting your own instincts. That first gut feeling you had about a person, a decision, a situation, before your mind stepped in with logical reasons to override it. How many times has that first instinct turned out to be right, even after you convinced yourself to ignore it? Your instincts are not random. They are the accumulated wisdom of every experience you have ever lived through, processed faster than conscious thought can manage. When you override your instincts constantly in favor of what seems more reasonable or more acceptable to others, you slowly lose touch with one of the most valuable tools you were ever given. Begin practicing trust in your instincts again, in small, low-risk situations at first. Notice when your gut tells you something before your mind has fully explained why. Honor that feeling more often, and watch how your confidence in your own inner guidance begins to grow stronger over time. Consider, too, how much of your identity has been built around roles rather than around your actual self. The responsible one. The strong one. The one who always figures things out. The one who takes care of everyone else. These roles may have served a purpose at some point, perhaps even protected you during difficult times, but roles are not the same thing as identity. You are allowed to exist outside of these roles. You are allowed to be tired without immediately being the strong one again 5 minutes later. You are allowed to need care without automatically becoming the one who provides it for someone else instead. Somewhere underneath all these roles is a person who has needs, feelings, and desires that do not always fit neatly into the responsibilities you have taken on. Give yourself permission today to exist as that person, even briefly, even privately, without needing to perform any particular role at all. Let us talk honestly about disappointment, because avoiding it has likely shaped more of your decisions than you realize. Somewhere along the way, you may have decided that disappointing people, especially people close to you, was something to avoid at almost any cost. So you said yes when you meant no. You stayed quiet when you needed to speak. You chose their comfort over your own honesty, again and again, until it became an automatic pattern rather than a conscious choice. Here is an uncomfortable but important truth. You cannot live an honest life without occasionally disappointing someone. It is simply not possible. Every honest boundary you set, every true preference you express, every authentic choice you make carries the possibility that someone, somewhere, will feel disappointed by it. This does not make you a bad person. It makes you a person living honestly, which will inevitably, at times, conflict with what someone else wanted from you. Learning to tolerate this discomfort, rather than avoiding it entirely, is one of the most freeing skills you can develop. Practice, gently, allowing someone to be disappointed by an honest choice you make. Notice that you survive it. Notice that the relationship, if it is a healthy one, survives it too. This practice, repeated over time, will loosen the grip that fear of disappointing others has held over your decisions for far too long. Think also about how you handle uncertainty. Many people believe they need to eliminate uncertainty before moving forward with anything important, but uncertainty is not something that can be fully eliminated from life. It is a permanent feature of being alive, not a temporary obstacle waiting to be solved before real living can begin. The people who seem most at peace are rarely the ones who have eliminated uncertainty from their lives. They are the ones who have learned to move forward alongside it, making decisions with the information available, adjusting as new information arrives, rather than waiting indefinitely for a certainty that was never actually coming. Practice tolerating uncertainty in small ways first. Make a small decision without needing to know exactly how it will turn out. Notice that you can handle not knowing. This tolerance builds over time, eventually allowing you to make larger, more important decisions without needing complete certainty first. There is something else worth addressing honestly, the way you handle your own success. Many people who have spent years feeling not good enough struggle just as much with success as they do with failure, because success brings its own uncomfortable feelings: fear of losing it, fear of being exposed as undeserving, fear of the increased visibility that comes with being seen more clearly. If this resonates with you, know that you are allowed to receive good things without immediately searching for the reason they might disappear. You are allowed to enjoy an accomplishment without instantly moving to the next goal, without giving yourself even a moment to feel proud of what you have already achieved. Practice pausing after something goes well. Acknowledge it. Let yourself feel proud, even briefly, before your mind rushes toward the next thing on your list. This pause is not laziness. It is a necessary part of building a genuinely healthy relationship with your own achievements. Consider, too, the quiet way that unprocessed emotions from your past continue to influence your present reactions. A sharp word from someone today might trigger a reaction that feels far more intense than the situation. And alone would explain, because it is touching something older, something from years ago that was never fully processed or resolved. This does not mean you are overreacting. It means there is old material still asking for attention, still asking to be acknowledged and released rather than continuing to influence your present from the shadows. Working through this old material, whether alone through reflection, through journaling, or with the support of someone trained to help with this kind of healing, can gradually reduce how much power these old wounds hold over your present reactions. You do not have to do this work all at once, and you do not have to do it alone if support is available to you. Simply beginning to notice when an old wound is being triggered, rather than assuming every strong reaction is entirely about the present moment, is a powerful first step toward healing. Think about the quiet cost of perfectionism in your life. The projects you have not started because they would not be perfect from the beginning. The words you have not spoken because they might not come out exactly right. The version of yourself you have not shown the world because you are still waiting to polish it further before anyone sees it. Perfectionism often disguises itself as high standards, but underneath it is usually fear: fear of criticism, fear of failure, fear of being seen as anything less than exceptional. This fear keeps countless people stuck, endlessly preparing, endlessly refining, never actually beginning the thing that matters most to them. Done imperfectly is almost always better than perfect but never started. Give yourself permission today to begin something imperfectly. Let it be messy. Let it be a rough draft, a first attempt, a beginning rather than a finished masterpiece. Perfection was never actually the goal. Progress was always the real goal, disguised for years as something else entirely. As this message draws closer to its true ending, take a moment to reflect on everything that has been shared. Not to remember every single word, but to notice which parts landed most deeply for you, which truths felt like they were speaking directly to your own life, your own struggles, your own quiet hopes. Those particular truths are not coincidental. They are pointing you toward exactly what needs your attention most right now. Trust that pointing. It is not random. It arrived exactly when you were ready to receive it, even if you did not consciously realize you were ready until this very moment. This message found you today for a reason. Trust that. Carry it with you. And when you are ready, not before, not because anyone else told you to, but when you are truly ready, take your next step. Deep down, you already know what that step is. Thank you for receiving this message today. Be gentle with yourself as you begin. There is one more layer to this message, and it may be the most important part of all, so stay with these words a little longer. Think about the language you use when you talk about your own future. Do you say "I will," or do you say "I hope," "I might," "we will see"? The words you choose are not just casual habits of speech. They reflect the level of belief you actually hold about your own ability to create the life you want. Small shifts in language, spoken consistently over time, can quietly shift belief as well. Try, starting today, replacing some of the uncertain language with more decisive language, even in small matters. Instead of "I might start exercising," try "I am starting tomorrow morning." Instead of "I hope this works out," try "I am doing what I can to make this work." This is not about forcing false confidence. It is about gently training your mind to expect action from you, rather than expecting endless deliberation instead. Consider also the environment you have surrounded yourself with, both physically and socially. Environment shapes behavior far more than most people realize. A cluttered space often reflects, and reinforces, a cluttered mind. A social circle filled with people who complain constantly about their circumstances, without ever taking action to change them, can quietly normalize that same pattern in you, even if you consider yourself different from them. You do not need to dramatically overhaul your entire environment overnight. But begin noticing it. Notice which spaces make you feel calm and focused, and which spaces make you feel scattered and drained. Notice which people leave you feeling inspired after a conversation, and which people leave you feeling depleted. Small adjustments to your environment, made consistently, can support the internal changes you are working toward far more than willpower alone ever could. Let us also address something rarely spoken about directly, the grief that often accompanies growth. When you change, you are, in a very real sense, saying goodbye to an older version of yourself, a familiar identity you have lived inside for years, even if that identity was no longer serving you well. This goodbye, even when it leads towards something better, still carries a kind of grief. It is normal to feel a sense of loss even while pursuing positive change. You might miss the comfort of old patterns, even patterns that were quietly harming you, simply because they were familiar. This grief does not mean you are making the wrong choice. It simply means you are human, and humans naturally mourn even the things they are better off releasing. Allow yourself to grieve the old version of you, gently, without judgment. This grief does not need to stop you from moving forward. It can simply walk alongside you for a while, until it naturally fades as the new version of you becomes more familiar, more comfortable, more truly yours. Think, too, about the concept of enough. How much would be enough for you to finally feel secure, successful, at peace? Many people carry an invisible number in their mind, a certain income, a certain achievement, a certain level of external validation, believing that once they reach it, the restless feeling inside them will finally settle. But for most people, that number keeps moving. Once it is reached, new, higher number quietly takes its place, and the restless feeling remains exactly the same as before. This is not because the goals were wrong to pursue. It is because peace was never actually located at that external destination in the first place. It was always meant to be cultivated internally, alongside the pursuit of external goals, not instead of them, but not solely dependent upon them either. Begin practicing a sense of enough today, not as a way of giving up on growth, but as a way of decoupling your peace from constantly moving external targets. You can still pursue your goals fully while also choosing, in this present moment, to acknowledge that you are already enough, exactly as you are, before any goal is reached at all. Consider the quiet influence of unspoken expectations you have placed on people around you. Just as you have carried expectations placed on you by others, you likely carry expectations of your own, often unspoken, that shape your relationships more than you realize. Expecting someone to know what you need without you clearly stating it. Expecting someone to change in ways you have never directly asked them to change. Expecting perfect understanding without ever fully explaining your perspective. Unspoken expectations are one of the quietest sources of resentment in relationships, because the other person often has no idea they are failing to meet a standard they were never told about in the first place. Practice, gently, making your expectations known directly, rather than assuming others should simply intuit them. This single shift can transform many relationships that have quietly struggled under the weight of expectations that were never clearly communicated. Think about how you handle moments of stillness, when there is nothing urgent demanding your attention. Do you feel at ease in these moments, or does an urge to fill them with activity, noise, or distraction arise almost immediately? For many people, stillness feels uncomfortable, because it removes the constant busyness that has been quietly used, perhaps unconsciously, to avoid facing certain thoughts or feelings. Practice sitting with stillness, even briefly, without immediately reaching for a phone, a task, or some other form of distraction. Notice what arises in that space. It might be uncomfortable at first. But over time, this practice can help you become more comfortable with your own inner world, rather than constantly needing external noise to avoid it. As we bring this message to its true close, remember this above everything else that has been shared today. You are not required to have everything figured out immediately. You are not required to transform your entire life in a single day, a single week, or even a single year. You are simply invited, gently but firmly, to begin. One honest step. One small act of courage. One moment of listening to yourself instead of overriding your own truth. That is enough to begin. Everything else will unfold from there, in its own time, at its own pace, exactly as it is meant to. This message found you today for a reason. Trust that. Carry it with you. And when you are ready, not before, not because anyone else told you to, but when you are truly ready, take your next step. Deep down, you already know what that step is. Thank you for receiving this message today. Be gentle with yourself as you begin. There is still more worth understanding before this message reaches its true end, because the deepest truths often take the longest to fully land. Think about how you respond when something finally starts going right in your life. For many people who have lived through long stretches of struggle, good things arriving can trigger an unexpected reaction, suspicion. A part of the mind begins searching for the catch, waiting for it to fall apart, unable to simply trust that something good can last without immediately being taken away. This reaction is understandable. If you have been let down before, your mind is simply trying to protect you from being hurt again. But this protection, if left unchecked, can quietly sabotage the good things arriving in your life, because you may pull away from them, question them, or even unconsciously create problems just to confirm the suspicion your mind was already expecting. Practice allowing good things to simply be good, without immediately searching for hidden danger. Not naively, not without healthy awareness, but with enough openness to actually receive what is being offered to you, rather than pushing it away before it has a chance to fully arrive. Consider, too, how differently you might move through your days if you approached them with curiosity instead of judgment. Judgment says, "This should not be happening, this is wrong, should already know how to handle this." Curiosity says, "This is happening, what can I learn from it? What is this moment trying to teach me?" Curiosity tends to open doors that judgment keeps firmly shut. The next time something difficult or unexpected arises, try approaching it with a curious question instead of an immediate judgment. Notice how this small shift changes not just your reaction, but often the entire trajectory of how the situation unfolds from there. Think about the quiet power of simply beginning again after a difficult stretch. Life will not always move in a straight line toward growth. There will be periods of backsliding, periods where old habits return, periods where you feel like you have lost the progress you worked so hard to build. This is normal. This happens to everyone who has ever pursued meaningful change. What matters most is not whether you experience these periods of backsliding. What matters is whether you allow them to define you as a failure, or whether you simply, quietly, begin again. Beginning again is not a sign of weakness. It is one of the most powerful skills a person can develop, the ability to fall down and get back up, again and again, without giving up on the larger journey entirely. If you find yourself in a period of backsliding right now, this message is your permission to simply begin again, today, without needing to explain or justify the time that has passed since your last attempt. The time that passed does not erase the progress you made before it. It simply means today is another opportunity to continue. Consider also how much freedom exists in releasing the need to be understood by everyone around you. You have already been reminded of this earlier in this message, but it deserves to be said once more, because it is a lesson that often needs repeating before it truly settles in. You will meet people throughout your life who simply do not understand your choices, your pace, your priorities. This will happen regardless of how clearly you explain yourself, regardless of how much evidence you provide for why your choices make sense. Some people are simply not positioned, by their own experiences and perspectives, to fully understand a path that differs from their own. This is not a reflection of your worth, or the validity of your choices. It is simply a natural limitation of human understanding, one that applies to every person, in every relationship, at some point along the way. Release the exhausting effort of trying to be fully understood by absolutely everyone. Focus instead on being understood by those who are genuinely willing to try, and being honest with yourself even when no one else fully grasps your journey. Before you leave this message behind and return to the rest of your day, there is one final reflection worth sitting with, because it ties everything else together. Every truth shared today points back to the same simple idea. You have spent a long time waiting for the right moment, the right permission, the right amount of certainty, the right level of readiness, before allowing yourself to live more fully, more honestly, more true to who you actually are. That waiting has felt safe, but it has also quietly cost you time you will never get back. You do not have to wait any longer. Not because everything is suddenly perfect, not because every fear has disappeared, but because you have finally heard, clearly, what your own spirit has been trying to tell you for a long time now. The waiting was never actually protecting you. It was simply delaying you. Today, let the waiting end. Not with a dramatic leap into everything at once, but with one honest, grounded step forward, taken with whatever courage you can gather in this exact moment. That single step is enough to begin changing the direction of everything that follows. Trust yourself the way you would trust a friend who has proven, again and again, that they can handle difficult things. Because that friend is you. You have survived every hard season that came before this one. You are capable of walking through whatever comes next, one honest step at a time. This message found you today for a reason. Trust that. Carry it with you. And when you are ready, not before, not because anyone else told you to, but when you are truly ready, take your next step. Deep down, you already know what that step is. Thank you for receiving this message today. Be gentle with yourself as you begin.